Hi guys, welcome back to Potential Meets Passion, and today we have a special guest, Fionna. She is a hypnotherapist, but not just any hypnotherapist. You know, she mixes hypnotherapy with energy work, which makes her work called Hypno Alchemy. Her website, hypnoalchemy.com. Check it down below, guys. And today we just want to be talking about what it is, but most importantly, like how she got here, because Fionna has a very special ability to pick up people's energy. She can tell how someone is feeling by just seeing them, seeing their energies. So she mixes this ability of her with the work that she does as well. But it was very difficult growing up as a child, having all these things going on. So we are going to be exploring her past as a childhood, how it affected her self-worth. And we'll be talking about a very special case study, which is my own, because I was doing a session with her 2 hours prior to shooting this podcast just to get a real fresh experience. So let's welcome Fionna. So can we know more about how did you grow up, your background as a child, like what were you like? Because you told me it was very difficult navigating through life as a kid who had seeing abilities or clairsentience, many things.
Yeah.
How was it like actually? Like what did you experience?
It was very lonely. Even though I was a twin, it was very lonely. I realized that she didn't have quite the same abilities as me. And I didn't really, maybe it was because I was a twin with different abilities. I felt so incredibly alone. I felt like the weirdo. I didn't know that it was actually quite a normal thing to be able to see things and sense things the way that I could. But I ended up internalizing that I was a complete weirdo. And I ended up being very ostracized, I would say, in school.
How would you act in school? Like, would you be telling people, like, I see things, and then they would be like, what? Are you a weirdo?
Well, I remember the first story I told kids was about my past life. I told them I remembered being a cat, which is possibly why I love cats so much now. But it was a very real knowing that I was a cat in a past life. I must have been about 6 or something. And this is in a Western country where past lives are not in any way part of normal culture.
Yeah.
And I just remember they were so horrible to me. They spent months making fun of me and sort of making me feel like an outsider.
Right.
And after that, I would only tell close friends about, there's this voice that I can hear in the bedroom. I can hear that there's a man talking and he's scaring me. And people didn't take it seriously. Even my sister didn't take it seriously until she started hearing it too at a later date. And then she realized that I wasn't insane. And that it wasn't a physical person, that it was a spirit that was talking in the bedroom.
Oh.
And I know it sounds, even now when I talk about it, I'm aware that many people could think that it's crazy. But having lived in Bali and experienced so many spirits there and so many people with the same abilities as me, I no longer think I'm a weirdo.
But so how did you deal with things like spirits seeing you, coming to see you, showing you things? Like, as a child, it must be not just lonely, but definitely super scary, right? Because you have no one to protect you. You don't know what to do. So how do you manage?
I had a system. I developed probably what would now be called an obsessive-compulsive system for checking the house.
Wow, what is it?
Every night. I had checked everywhere to make sure that there was definitely not a physical person in the place. So I knew for sure that it wasn't a man who'd broken into the house. That at least I knew that it was spirits. And then I would just hide under the duvet and cry myself to sleep.
Oh.
But it worked. It made me feel, that was the thing. I felt very, very unsafe as a kid. Mm-hmm. I didn't know, and I didn't have anyone within my network, in my family, or that saw things the way that I did, I guess, and could explain to me that that was what was happening. So,
did you feel like you had to do something to prove them that you were seeing things, or you had this ability, or you were completely rejecting yourself?
Oh no, I completely rejected myself. After I'd been told, basically, you know, there's no such thing as monsters. There's no such thing as what you're saying you're seeing. It's nothing. You're just imagining it. I shut down completely.
And you never told anyone about this?
No.
And when you start seeing things, you'll be like, no, 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 no.
I must be imagining it. It must be something. There must be something wrong with me.
Okay.
That was the message that I internalized. There's something wrong with me.
So that was a lot of shame holding onto a lot of shame. And would you say like imposter syndrome kind of feeling, or no?
Not back then. I think when I started reconnecting with abilities, that was when imposter syndrome started coming up. But as a child, I just thought I was a bit crazy.
Right.
Or weird, or, you know, I went through various different stages. But it wasn't just because I could see spirits. I could also see and feel energy in a different way than other people.
Like how?
So I could always sense when somebody wasn't telling the truth. And it sounds like a very basic thing, and probably nowadays we'd call it being highly sensitive or empathetic, but it's how I'm able to do my work now, is because I can sense the energy and shifts in people. I can physically see stuff happening within people's bodies, and I can't explain how I can see it. I just can. But as a child, when I would say to somebody, you're saying this, but I know what you're experiencing is that, people would deny it.
Of course.
And then I thought I was wrong. So I just assumed that everything that
about
I was
you.
experiencing, basically it made me think that my intuition was absolutely off. And in fact, it was the complete opposite. I had very highly honed intuitive abilities.
That must have been very conflicting, just growing up.
Super confusing.
Not knowing whether you can believe yourself or not, or just being like, I can't believe myself at all entirely, right?
Yeah.
Man, okay. So what happened to you that, like, how long did this go on for?
Well, I think it went on until basically the beginning of my Saturn return, which was when I was 27. We were 27 because I was a twin. And I was living my best life, really. I was living in Prague at the time, and I got a phone call from my sister saying, you need to come to England because I've just been told that I have stage 4 lung cancer. Well, at the time they didn't know it was stage 4, but they told her she had lung cancer, and my world came crashing down. And that caused a shift in me where I don't know, it was like a complete meltdown, I guess. But what happened in my sister was something entirely different. Everything fell away. All of the rubbish, the nonsense fell away, and she just became the most incredible version of herself. Like, she didn't care about things in the way that she'd cared before. She just cared about living life and enjoying life.
Yeah.
And watching her go through that, watching her become this incredible version of herself, made me want to reconnect with the person that I truly was.
I see. Because you get to see like a reflection of you, of like what you could become if all these like rubbish that you tell yourself, like, I'm not worthy, and like there's something wrong with me. And I mean, she has cancer, obviously there's something wrong with her, but she was like, I'm accepting this, something wrong with me.
Yeah, it's exactly that. She accepted it, and she went, what can I do? I can live life to the full, and who cares what anyone else thinks? And that was incredibly inspiring to me.
But I guess it's different when a doctor tells you you have cancer and the whole world accepts cancer, you know, but you had a different thing where you didn't have doctors telling you like, oh, you have a psychic ability that you could develop into. It's kind of like you have to go through the process of like actually identifying that what you had or what you go through was normal. How was that transition, or what happened there?
Well, I think I did that accidentally, actually, because what I realized was it made me reflect on what I was doing in life and the work that I was doing. And I wasn't doing anything that was aligned for myself. I absolutely hated the work that I did, but I was doing it because it earned me money. And back, it was pre the time when everybody became digital nomads, but I was a digital nomad. I was able to work from anywhere, so I did a job that fitted me, except I wasn't helping anyone.
What was your job, can I ask?
I was a political analyst. So, you could say I was helping people, like I was analyzing the political situations in the Middle East and writing reports on it. But I had this feeling that I was not in alignment because I wasn't helping people.
Yeah.
And I decided what can I do that would actually help people?
Yeah.
And I had some sessions in a particular method, the one that I trained at the time, the Alexander technique, and I thought it was amazing. And I thought, well, I could do that. I could help people. And then as soon as I started the training, I started realizing that it was helping me to develop my reconnect with the abilities that I had basically suppressed and denied for most of my life. So
it was coming out.
Yeah, it was naturally coming out. And then it was like the lid had been lifted. So it wasn't initially a conscious decision to reconnect with my intuitive abilities, or it must have been a subconscious decision. Either way, it really worked.
It was like, it's about time.
Yeah.
It's about time. How long are you going to let yourself go on like this?
Yeah, exactly.
Right? And then you kind of like slowly developed, you started the Alexander technique. How long is that training? Or
It's a 3-year training
Whoa.
course. It's a big deal. Yeah. 5 days a week for 3 years. Well, with vacations, like a university, I guess. I actually did 1.5 years of that specific training. I quit unintentionally again the day that my sister died.
Oh, unintentionally.
I thought that I would go back, but because my life completely collapsed, I would say. My sister died, and I lost my job, and a number of things happened at once. And I went into a deep funk for a while and shut down a bit until I was reminded myself, well, my sister, she wouldn't have reacted like this. And
so you got up again.
Yeah, I picked myself back up again, and I decided at that time that I wanted to travel.
Where did you travel to?
Where did I fly to? I came to Thailand, I'm pretty sure of it, because she was living in the UK, so I moved back to the UK for a while when she was sick. Around Southeast Asia mainly. I went to visit family in Australia, and then that was when I decided, really, I wanted to live in Asia, and I wanted to pursue
whatever you had.
Yeah,
I see.
Over here. So I cut away any connections with political analysis. I moved on, and then it was a kind of a crazy journey and unfortunately, the beginning of our Saturn return was the beginning of a very difficult 7-year cycle for me, in which my sister died, my first child was stillborn, my father died, my grandfather died, I lost my home. It was a crazy time. So those 7 years were life-changing, but they were what I needed to be able to get to where I am now, the place that I'm at, and the person that I am now.
Yeah. So how did the self-acceptance came with, okay, of course, like all the chaos going on after your sister died, right? And then you started doing the Alexander technique, or deciding with your life that, like, okay, I'm going to work on this now. And that was the beginning of accepting your worth.
Yeah.
Right. And what else happened well, not like the bad stuff, but more like, what did you do for yourself?
I did so many different things. That was the thing. I knew that something had to change.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that my self-worth was a major issue, but I didn't know how to change it. So my solution was to try as many different things as I could. So I trained in tarot reading, I trained in astrology, in Chrono Psychothearpist, I became a Reiki Master, I became a Breathwork Facilitator. I did all of these different things to try and find a method that could help me accept who I was.
And did it help you?
Yes. Step by step, until I found my own method.
Would you say it was kind of like following your passion?
Yes, that's exactly it. Like, the person that I am now is very different than the person I was back then. Like, as soon as I let myself follow my passion and follow the things that I truly, genuinely loved and make money out of the things that I genuinely loved, that was when I became successful. It was fascinating. I was always trying to fit in, you know, fit the mold, and okay, you should have a 9-to-5 job and that's how you should make money, and if you've got this passion, you do it on the side. And I actually have two passions, which is the work that I do now, and I love property. And I always have. When I was at university, I used to watch property renovation shows and stuff, and everybody was like, why aren't you out partying? I'm like, I do that too, but I also love watching this. And now I'm really lucky. I've built amazing villas, I've renovated some places, and I make money, very good living now, out of my work in doing Hypno Alchemy and the properties that I have. And it's like living the dream.
That's amazing.
But I had to allow myself to give up on any notions of what is the right way to do things.
Yeah, and those right ways were basically conditioned by school, whatever you were growing up around.
Yeah. And quite a conservative family, I would say. I'm trying to be nice. They're you know, lovely people, but very fixed mindset. Yeah.
And when you were like doing these passion work that you were following, getting training, did you ever doubt yourself that like, can I actually do this for a living? Like, how am I gonna find clients? Or like that's what I'm going through right now.
Yeah. Oh yeah, I've been there. The thing is, it's like every time I managed to get myself past one of those self-doubts or those doubts, I made myself so much stronger and more powerful. And it took a lot of misfires, you know, like trying something and being like, well, actually, no, that's not the right thing for me.
Yeah.
To get to where I am now.
Yeah.
But that's the thing, it was an amazing journey. It was so much fun.
Yeah.
Like, if I look back at it now and I'm like, well, would I change it? Absolutely not.
Yeah.
You know, sometimes you make mistakes along the way, but if you're following your heart, like I followed my heart, and it was so much fun. And now I can see the end result, which is, well, I'm still a work in progress or whatever, you know, there is no end result, but it was worth it.
Yeah.
But yeah, the self-doubt and the kind of, should I be charging for this? You know, I'm working in a spiritual field.
Yeah.
You know, should I be making a living out of this?
Yeah.
That took a while for me to get my head around. And now I categorically say, yes, I have something valuable to give to the world, and other people can give me money in return that allows me to live a comfortable and happy life. I don't have to be poor to help people. Yeah, and that phrase is just so beautiful to hear and to live, but to get there is an entirely different story, because I think that's what everyone wants, right? To do the work they love, to do the work that they are themselves, and to live comfortably doing work that feels natural to them. But there is like limiting beliefs and self-worth issues, like you've mentioned. So would you say that like the advice that you would give to get to that goal is to kind of like dig the trash of what's not meant to be there? And what is the kind of trash that you had to get out of in the process?
from your experience?
From my experience, like now I understand it a lot clearer than I used to, where I would consciously try and get over these beliefs, but I couldn't manage to consciously do it. And that's why I ended up doing what I do now, which is working with the subconscious mind. And it took a while for me to find the right thing and now I wish I'd found it years earlier, which is that we have these subconscious beliefs that we've picked up that might have been relevant when we were 5 years old, but they aren't relevant to us now. But the fact is, it is possible, and it's actually quite easy to get rid of subconscious beliefs by working with the subconscious mind. And I think everybody should try it. Yeah. Everybody should do this. Yeah. I mean, it's incredibly powerful and incredibly simple.
Yeah. And that's why you started to work with hypnotherapy, right? Even if you had this like given gifts as a child to pick up energies, to pick up like hidden secret messages that even the person itself don't know what they're feeling. You could pick up lies, but you couldn't do anything. You couldn't work much with that, like the lies or like the emotions. Was that the case?
I mean, for that, I think the way that I ended up exploring those kind of disconnects between what someone expresses and what I can sense energetically is when I trained in all the different energy works, from Reiki, which is about channeling universal energy, to craniosacral therapy, which is about feeling the energetic shifts in the system. All of that was helping me to understand energetics and how to shift things. And I love it. I still love hands-on energy work. It's magical. It's so powerful, and it's so easy in a way that a lot of people maybe don't understand. It's very easy to shift things energetically for people. But what I was missing when I was doing that was how to shift it in a way that it will never come back.
Because you can shift energy like back and forth unconsciously. Like something makes you feel good and then you're, oh yes. And then something makes you feel bad and you're, oh god, no.
And you go straight back into the same pattern. But what I've found by doing this work, which I call it Hypno Alchemy because I combine intuitive energy work with hypnotherapy, is that I can work with people. I mean, I'm just a facilitator. You've experienced this session with me. You know, you do all the work. I'm just pointing you in the direction. But, you know, I'm helping energetically. But I combine working with the subconscious mind to help make that energetic shift move and last. So it's long-lasting energetic shifts.
I see.
Powered by shifting subconscious beliefs.
That seems like a lot of shifting and a lot of subconscious work as well, which I experienced 2 hours ago. Just now. Because I had to do a session with Fionna before we begin the podcast, just to know what it's like. And I've never done hypnotherapy before. I never seeked to do it as well, but I believed in it. You know, I've had many friends who had like deep traumas and issues. Like you see them and you're like, this kid's got an issue, and he got so much better after seeing Hypnotherapist. So I know how powerful it is. But as I was doing my session with you, I did feel that it was not just hypnotherapy. You know, I was feeling things rushing through my body, things rushing out of my body from different parts of my body, like specific stomach, legs, shoulders, and for me that was amazing. You know, it was an amazing experience, and actually we would like to share it in this podcast session as well, of the lessons we've learned, because I have a lot of self-worth issues, shame issues, where I feel not confident in what I do. And I've shared this with friends that recently I started reading tarot publicly. When I posted that I read tarot online to the world, I started crying. I cried so much, and I didn't know why. It wasn't like you where tarot or magic or fortune telling was rejected in my family. Actually, I have two first cousins who read tarot, so it was very familiar. Like, my parents were really familiar. We're all familiar with these things. But as for me, I knew there was something blocked, of me using my powers, tarot reading, psychic abilities, or whatever. Even if I had released some of it, I do still feel like I couldn't see my worth of doing it. And that was one thing I was talking to Fionna about in our session as well. So we'd like to share the lessons that we've learned together. Because initially, I wanted her to share a case. That wasn't me. But before we started the podcast, I was like, do you want to do a case study? And she was like, actually, we could do your case study. And I was like, okay.
It was an awesome session.
It was an awesome session. Yeah. So was it the first time that not the first time, if rare, that you took someone into hypnotherapy and then they were in a womb?
It's not the first time that I've had somebody go to the womb like you, but what was beautiful was that the womb work took you to a past life. So we went from womb to past life to a current life. We did 3 scenes. We went back to 3 scenes. Mm-hmm. And that is a very beautiful and rare combination. I've not experienced that before.
What struck you as a wow, cool session?
Well, I mean, first of all, I didn't have to prompt you, that you understood immediately that you'd gone back to the womb, because I didn't mention it before our session. I do tell people you could go back to a past life. It depends on the client, because some people might not be open to it. But I didn't mention that we could go back to a womb. And I said, what are you experiencing? And you said, it's bright, and I feel like I'm in the womb. But you didn't say it in a way like you thought you were crazy, which you were just like, I'm in the womb.
No.
Yes, she gets it. She gets this.
No, because there was no other place. I thought at first I thought I was crazy, because no one said you could do hypnotherapy and go back to the womb.
Yeah.
You would imagine, okay, go back to your childhood.
Yeah.
Go back to maybe past life if that's going to come up. But in the womb is we don't expect ourselves to have memories or consciousness, right, in the womb. So how could my subconscious bring me back there? That was my first doubt of myself.
Yeah.
But then I stayed there for a while, and it was like, I can't be in another place.
And you allowed yourself to explore the feelings that you were having then. So you didn't let self-doubt stop you from, and that's a beautiful thing in itself, that you went, okay, there's a doubt, I'm not sure, but I'm going to just allow this experience to unfold. And you allowed that. Yeah. And then it became clear that you in the womb you were carrying a knowledge of a past life. Oh, and that's quite rare,
what happened in the session was we found out that I was scared to come out, to be born. But I was ready. It was very conflicting, and this is how I feel my whole life, because it was the problem I approached with Fionna. I was like, I know I want to do something, but I can't do it. I can't execute. I have self-esteem issue where I'm constantly creating problems for myself to not execute. So it's like a self-sabotage kind of way as well. It's you have to get to A, but you create B, C, D, E for yourself, so you can't get anywhere. And that's exactly how I felt in the womb, right? And then we went back to one of my past life where I felt similar to this joyful feeling of being ready, because we wanted to explore the fear of what was stopping me from going outside. Do you want to talk about that?
No, well, I mean, from my perspective, what was interesting when we went back to the past life was also that you went back to a joyful experience and you didn't doubt why you'd gone there, because a lot of people expect that they're going to be taken back to a negative experience.
Right.
And you allowed yourself to explore that, to feel, I mean, it was beautiful watching you, the energy that was flowing through you in that joyful moment.
Mm-hmm.
But I could feel what was coming. So I had, at a certain point, I said, okay, so what happens next?
Mm-hmm.
And that was when the gold started coming out as to why you in the womb had been afraid of what was coming. And you said a phrase, I can't remember the exact words now, but it was about, you knew you were going to go through the same thing again.
Oh yeah, I was frightened.
Yeah.
That I had to go through, that I have to be born and then go through the same thing again.
The same life experiences again. And that's why you ended up getting taken back to that past life. Because, okay, so you know that you're going to go through something again. You can feel that. You have an intuitive ability that's quite refined and very clear. So what is it that you're going to go through again? And you took yourself back, like, amazingly.
Yeah.
First of all, to that really valuable experience that you needed to see, which was you being incredibly joyful.
Mm-hmm.
And then what killed the joy? Basically, that was what happened, right?
But that's usually in every case of hypno or past life, right? Like they would show you what killed your joy.
Yeah. But often people will get taken back just to a negative experience, whereas you explored that, your essence, your core joyful, happy, radiant experience first. You let yourself feel that before you were taken to the explanation of so we were able to then explore that energy and help you to integrate that energy into yourself now.
I think it was just showing me, just so they tell me, like, you know, this is you, like, just to confirm that this is you, because you're familiar with this.
Yeah.
But and then they showed me of being hopeless later after apparently a man took my joyfulness away in this past life. Apparently he took it away, and I became depressed, hopelessness, and feeling shameful for making that mistake of talking to him. And I was telling Fionna this as well as the session was going through, like, he sucked the life out of me. I was 14 years old. He sucked the life out of me. I felt like I lost my identity. I lost myself. And then the self-sabotage kicked in after I lost myself. And it was scary because this is exactly how I felt in this life. Something happened when I was 14, very similar to this. It was, and then I started self-sabotaging again and again, criticizing myself for making the same mistake. So I was reliving the same thing.
I would say replicate. It kind of replicated itself in this lifetime, which is exactly what you knew in the womb was gonna happen.
Oh man. Okay, that now is clicking.
Yeah, you see?
Yeah. So Fionna guided me magically throughout the process of having me feel the wonderfulness of life, and then the change of depression, going into depression, you know. But then I was like, what do we do with this, Fionna?
How do you literally ask that question?
It's like, am I gonna be like this forever? And she was like, okay, we'll do something about it, you know. And then we went to our current life as well, my current life as well, because you said it, that something wants to come up, which was me. I was very young, and I was being watched over. I couldn't be myself. This again had to do with like being controlled or having authoritative parents around, which I think a lot of people feel this, as they feel wrong for being themselves. You know, they don't feel comfortable, and they feel like they have to be a certain way. And I think this is just, it's natural to have this happen. Not necessary that you have to. For me, I felt like I wasn't good enough. Yeah. I felt like I had to be this perfect daughter to survive. And the magical thing of this whole session is we got to talk to my defense mechanism. We'd be surprised that we can actually talk to our defense mechanism. So, Fiona, you want to say something about the defense mechanism part? Because I think you're very familiar with it. You had to do a lot of defense mechanism talk with your clients, right?
Yeah. Well, the idea behind it is that we all know that we have different parts of us. Like, I used the example for you, you'll say part of me wants to eat a burger right now, part of me wants to eat a salad. So we create these parts within ourselves that have a very specific role. So we connected with the part of you that was holding you back from allowing you to trust yourself completely and to, do the things that you wanted to do. We did this after we'd already experienced some of the scenes, so we already had an idea of what I call the golden thread that was going through the session. And we connected with that part, and we literally just ask it, why are you doing this? Why are you making Annie not trust herself? Why are you holding her back in that way? And again, you did it like a pro. You sank into the background and you allowed to give the part voice, and it explained exactly why it was doing that for you. Right.
So basically, we didn't explain this beginning of the session, but how Fionna does it is that she have me, the client, ask a question.
Yes. That
I want to have an answer. And then she would also ask, what would it be like if this was all solved? Like, how would your world look like if I have a magic wand and wave it right now? Like, how would it look like in your world? And apparently that's the golden thread, right? The question itself.
So the golden, what I refer to the golden thread is the answer that comes up to that specific question. And so the scenes will come up, and you won't necessarily in the moment understand because you've forgotten the question and you're living the scenes, right? So then I take you back and I explain, okay, so you've seen these scenes. What's the thread that's connecting them to the question that we've asked?
Okay. So that's why they show 3 scenes.
Yeah. So it's to give you a really clear idea for yourself. So you're the detective. You're doing all the detective work. I can see stuff. I can understand stuff. But ultimately, it doesn't matter if I understand it. You have to fundamentally, to the core of your being, understand what your subconscious mind is telling you. And you did. You got it.
And like, do you have cases where people just don't get it?
Yes, I've had one person that didn't get it. She was a very difficult person to work with. She wasn't ready for hypnotherapy or any she's never tried any energy work. She insisted on doing the session even though I told her, I don't think you're ready for this. And it was a valuable lesson for myself, because I've said this to many people before, like, some people I just don't think are ready for this. It's deep work. You have to be at that stage where you want change to happen in your life. And she was deeply resistant. And the golden thread for me was super clear. But it doesn't matter if I understand. So, I mean, she says she had an amazing session and she got a great deal out of it. We could have got a lot more. But whatever, she's happy. That's the important thing, I guess, right?
Definitely. Yeah. So is it like normal that, like, for me, 3 stories came up? Is that how it is usually?
No, well, it's kind of often quite standard to aim for 3 in the method that I was trained in. However, generally, it varies greatly with people. Sometimes I'll end up with just one scene and it's so clear that was the answer. And with some people, we'll need to go back to like 5 interconnected scenes, or there's, like, I use this phrase quite often, there's no one way or right way to do it. I'm very focused on that. Like, every single person is so different. But I can say, that's why I love doing this, because I can sense when we've got the information that we need. So I could feel already that we needed to go to the 3rd scene for you, just to tie up. I mean, we could have finished with those first 2 scenes tied together. It was pretty clear solid, message. But the third scene added a layer to it that was quite powerful as well. So that was, I'm really glad that I followed my instinct and said, let's do that. Let's go there and see what you need to see.
Yeah, it was very powerful. And end of the story, of the moral of the story, basically, just to summarize, in case you all got lost in what happened, because it was very like everywhere, all over the place. But my sense of distrust in myself, of like what I think I want to do and executing it came from me not trusting myself, right? But me not trusting myself essentially came from me judging what I've done, not accepting who I am. So very much like what Fionna went through as a child as well. I think it's all about self-acceptance, and most importantly, like looking forward to make that mistake in the future. Because I know I have this fear of like upsetting myself. Upsetting myself is most of like, upsetting myself and then upsetting other people, and I wouldn't move because of that, you know. And I think in the past life I really upsetted myself, and I didn't want to feel like that again. So I was doing everything to not upset myself anymore. But of course, like, you can live a stagnant life, a stifled life. Like, that was the word that came up during a session. She asked me how I felt, and I was like, I feel stifled. Like, I feel like I can't do anything at all. Even if that's how, well, my mom supposedly made me feel. But there is a reason why I was born as her daughter, right? This is the lesson that I had to learn, is how to not get stifled. Even if I feel not confident, even if I feel like I'm gonna fail, how do I move forward from that energy into something else? This was what came up during the session. The more I feel stuck in life, the more I don't trust myself to go forward, because it's like analysis paralysis. You don't do anything, and then you're like, what can I do? I can't do anything. Yeah. So that is like my lesson of the session with Fionna. She's really good. Like, she got me into like super deep hypnotism afterwards. After we finished the session already, like, she would still like talk and give me affirmations. And I think this is how affirmations work. First is like, you get the garbage out, and then you put new affirmations in. And you know, as you were like saying the last part of the recording, for me to listen for 21 days after today, I felt my brain rewired.
Yeah. That's the exact aim. It's literally it's about rewiring. That's it. I mean, you can talk about it in neurological terms, and but the fact is, we are removing, what we did during the session was remove subconscious beliefs that were holding you back, because we've described now the experience and the lives, or the life experiences, but then we showed your subconscious mind why the meaning that was attached to those experiences was incorrect and irrelevant to you now. So it's like talking to a toddler almost. We explained to the subconscious mind in a very clear way, like you would to a small child, why this belief is not relevant now. And you experienced it for yourself. Your subconscious mind goes, oh yeah. It did, didn't it? Just like that.
I was like, yes. And just like, I'm sorry. I didn't mean for it to be like that. And I was surprised that I was saying those things. I was like, you could have figured that out. Like, my conscious mind was like, you could have figured that out, but nope.
But we do it. It's like spoon feeding very basic information to a small child to be like, this is what I feel, this is what I think, this is what I need, and what you've been storing as a belief is inaccurate. So we remove that, but then you've got space to be rewired. And that's what the recording is designed to do. It's to rewire you with the beliefs that you actually want. And you might have noticed I used a lot of your own words. I mean, it was like I don't script anything, but I basically copy what you've been saying to me, because they're your beliefs. And that's what we did.
It was a very beautiful session. Thank you so much, Fionna.
It's my pleasure.
I would 100% recommend anyone who's watching this to consider hypnotherapy, and if you can, consider hypno alchemy. So one of the biggest lesson, I guess, is like self-acceptance for both you and I. As we were born unconventional, rebellious, not really the way that the world has told us to become or who we are supposed to be. Political analyst seems like a very normal job. I also worked at the UN, and it was very acceptable too. Yeah.
It's a dream of many people, but it's not necessarily a real dream. When you connect to your core, is that really genuinely what you want? Yeah,
I guess there needs to be a feeling of like, is this what I really want first? That first question of like, why am I doing this? And I think your work with so many cases of your clients, like, would you say that they've been able to find the self-worth that they've missed?
Yeah.
Like you did.
Yeah, well, that's my aim. I don't say this out loud very often because it sounds super cheesy, but in my head I would love to start a self-worth, self-love revolution. It's like, because that's what we're taught, to question ourselves, we're taught to doubt ourselves, we're taught to conform. And it would be a revolution in the world if we all just loved being ourselves. And that's something that I found, and obviously it gets knocked off a bit. We all have imperfect lives where things happen, but I genuinely now love being me. And I could never imagine that when I was younger. And it's an incredible feeling.
Okay, so thank you so much, Fionna. And I think this mission, most of the healers are working towards the same mission as well. In the end, it's all about like accepting who we are, accepting our worth, and even if we don't do anything, even if we don't become anyone, we're worth the same amount, like this plant. I think that's how we need to understand what self-worth is. That it's unconditional. No matter who you are born as, what you do, it's like that. It just is. And the more we accept it, the more we accept ourselves, the more we feel comfortable in our skin, and the more we can do the work that we're meant to do here. So before we leave, I would like you to give the audience a little bit of a journaling prompt from this podcast session. Just something, a little homework for them to go back and do a reflection on.
Okay, well, my suggestion would be to do some conscious work around something that's very similar to the subconscious work that I do, which is look back and notice any recurrent memories that come up for you from childhood. So there might be one memory that you notice has come up a lot, because we forget so much, but yet there are some memories that really always come back to us. They might seem insignificant, but our mind tells us these things. Our mind repeats them for a reason until we get the message. So I would say have a look back into the past, see what recurrent memory is coming up, and have a think about what kind of message your subconscious mind is trying to tell you. Look at it from different angles. Nothing is too small, and you might come out with some gold.
Okay, and also pay attention to the emotions that come up with the memories as well, and the beliefs that came up. Exactly. Very important. How does it make you feel, and what does it mean to you when you feel that way? Works with everything. And what does it mean about you? Because it's often the conclusions that we come to about ourselves that are what impacts us, rather than the experience itself. Yep, that's right. So if you love Fionna like I do, and if you resonate with this podcast, Fionna will be hosting more and more workshops. But one of the workshops is this Saturday, right? Is it Saturday? September 2nd at Slow Combo in Bangkok. She does do like one-on-ones all the time. You can visit her website, hypnoalchemy.com, link in the description below. And if you're interested in the workshop happening this Saturday, it's about unlocking financial freedom.
Yeah.
So we deal a lot with like money, relationships, a lot with that. Link to buy the ticket is also in the description. And if you already missed this podcast, no worries. Like, we can keep updated with your website.
Yes.
Yeah, your website. Okay, sure. All that in the description down below. And thank you so much for watching. We'll see you in the next podcast.